Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. I'm Katie Lebetz, and I'm here today to talk to you about Excel once again. So, thanks for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So, we're using the same file that we used during our last session. I've just updated it for today to show you what we're going to talk about. So in today's session, we're going to review last week's information. So just in case you didn't have a chance to grab the session from last week or watch the recording, we're just going to review a few things quickly. Today, we're going to go over inserting and deleting rows in an Excel file. We're going to look at basic formulas. And today we're also going to do a simple bar graph. So all of these things quite easy for you to be able to do, especially if you followed along from our session for last time. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. So thanks for joining me today. I greatly appreciate it. So like we talked about last time, Excel is a spreadsheet productivity tool and a data visualization tool. It's also an organizational tool. When we looked at it last week, we talked about you can use Excel for basic things like a grocery list. You can make a printable grocery list. We looked at a more sophisticated, I shall say, spreadsheet. And this spreadsheet had information about people and months and commissions. And we also showed you on this screen the variety of different graphs that we can do in Excel. We also talked about this tab, the Contracts tab, and we lightly touched on conditional formatting in this cell, the Contract in Place cell. And then finally, we looked at the budget spreadsheet. So this is a spreadsheet that you could create for your budget, for your monthly expenses, etc. So today we're actually going to look at a new tab that I created called Monthly Actuals. So in this Monthly Actuals tab, this is a representation of a pretend information for the actual costs that were incurred from 2019 for a variety of different items. So you can see that the mortgage was consistent. We spent $900 a month in the mortgage. Insurance was consistent. You can see that the car payment dropped off here in October, and that's just to show you that after October, in this particular case, the car was paid for, so there were no other car payments. We had some fluctuation with our grocery spending, which I think right now is quite normal, especially with everything that's going on right now. We talked about our pet supplies. I use a subscribe and save for my pet supplies, so I know how much it costs every month. We had a little bit of fluctuation here with clothing, cable, cell phone. We had landscaping in here and also snow removal. So the first example that we're going to talk about is inserting and deleting rows. So let's say that you've created this spreadsheet to track your actual monthly expenses. And you look at your items and you realize, oh my goodness, I totally forgot to include a line item for my monthly medical expenses. So medical expenses in this case could include prescriptions, it could include doctor visits, co-pays, etc. And we would like to include that type of payment right here where the grocery line is. So how can you do this? Well, first of all, you don't want to have to retype everything. That's definitely not something you want to do. That's not value-added work for you to have to retype anything. So let's go ahead and insert a new row. So I've highlighted row 5 by clicking using my left mouse button on the row numbered 5. Now I'm going to right click on my mouse and click Insert. So I highlighted row 5, which as you can see turns that all to gray. I right click and I hit insert. And Excel automatically inserts a row above where you were, or replaces row 5, which was previously groceries. It now has an empty row. So I can add in my medical expenses. And I knew from last year, let's say our medical expenses were pretty static for the year, because you may have a plan in which you know how much you spend every month. You could have a plan in which you know how much your prescriptions cost. So just for an example's sake, and to remind you of a feature we looked at last time, let's put in $100 a month. So I type in 100, I type in 100 again, and do you remember the trick I taught you last time? I'm using my left mouse button. I'm highlighting both of these cells for medical expenses for January and February. I move my mouse down to the bottom left corner, or pardon me, bottom right corner of the February 19th cell until my mouse changes to the crosshairs, which we call these crosshairs. I hold down my left mouse button and I drag it all the way over to December. And as you can see when I'm dragging it, it also has that little hover that says $100. It's letting you know that that's what it's going to populate in that cell, is $100. So again, all I did to insert a new row, I highlight the row in which I would like it or new information to appear. I right click and click on insert, and that inserts a row above that row that you're in right now. Or another way you can look at it is that it's making a blank row now for row 5. So the next thing I want to cover with you is how to delete a row. So let's pretend that we're looking at landscaping for the house. We paid $150, or pardon me, $1,500 and $250, and then I added another row for snow removal. Well, ideally I could combine those two, right? I don't need to have that snow removal. So I could copy the information from these cells in the snow removal and just move it up to landscaping and house. So let's go over how to copy and paste. So these 3 cells, remember, our address B12, C12, and D12. I'm going to highlight, holding my left mouse button down, highlight cells B12, C12, and D12. Now I'm going to right click with my mouse and select copy. I'm going to click in cell B11 and right click and hit this paste. So it's showing me what it's going to paste as a preview. So I'm going to right click and hit paste, and there I have it. It's much faster than retyping 250, 250, 250 3 times. Now, if you're fancy, you can also use the Control C button to copy and Control V like Victor to paste. So I copied those 2 cells. I'm going to go over to column M, row 12. I want to copy that up into December. So again, I click on my cell that I want to copy the data from. I right click on my mouse and I hit copy. I go to the cell, what we would call destination cell, which is M11. And I right click and hit paste. Since we combine these 2 rows, I no longer need this snow removal row. So I bet you can guess how to delete it, because you just saw a sneak peek of that a minute ago. I highlight row 12. Again, right click with your mouse button and hit delete. And that row that I had just selected has now been deleted. So it's removed from your spreadsheet. Those values essentially no longer exist. So again, right click is your friend. highlighting, and that goes for your columns also. So you can right click on a column and you can insert a new column, or you can delete that column. It's the same functionality for rows or for columns. All right, let's move on to easy formulas. So the first formula that we're going to look at today, just for an introduction, just in case you haven't seen a formula before, is the AutoSum formula. So it automatically sums up the values from a selected either row or column of data, or just a few cells in and of themselves. So we have our spreadsheet here that shows us our actuals for our items, our household items, and we had that completed for 2019. Well, I'd really like to know how much I spent for the year for my mortgage, my insurance, my car payment, etc. So for each row, we're going to click. I added this new column. I entitled it Total by Item. I'm going to click in that cell. Again, remember our cell, our destination, or our cell address, in this case is N2, column N, row 2. I click on cell N2 because that's where I want my first formula to be. I would like a sum of all of what I paid for my mortgage from January until December. Next, I click on the formulas bar. Up at the top, you see File, Home, Insert, Page Layout in Formulas. I click on Formulas, and Excel tries to help you along the way. There's already a formula here for what's called AutoSum. AutoSum means that Excel will automatically add up your total for your cells after the cells have been selected. Now, the cool part about Excel is that it tries to take a guess in regards to what cells that you wanted added all up. Essentially, AutoSum, for our example, is like saying 900 plus 900 plus 900 plus 900, etc., all the way to the $900 value in December. So let's see how AutoSum works. Again, clicking in cell N2, I went to my Formulas tab up at my bar up at the top, Formulas tab, and I click on AutoSum. Now, when I clicked on AutoSum, it inserts the function called sum, and it takes a guess. Do you want me, Excel is asking you, it's highlighted on my screen in blue, and it has like a dashing line that's moving around it like little marching ants. It says, Excel is asking you, do you want me to summarize the values from cell B2 all the way to M2? So that's what that colon represents, B2 through M2. Well, guess what? Excel guessed correctly. So I'm going to say, yeah, that's what I want. I simply click enter, and it summarizes that value for me. So I'm going to bring up the screen just a little bit. Again, remember, bottom right-hand corner of the screen, there is a percentage that's showing the zoom, and I'm clicking on the plus button to zoom up or zoom down. All right, let's go through this one more time, and then we'll talk about how to make this even faster. I would like to summarize how much I spent last year for insurance. So again, I click on my cell where I want my total, cell N3. Up at the top with my bar up at the top, I'm going to click on the Formulas tab, and then I click on AutoSum. Again, Excel makes a guess for you. It's asking you, did you want me to summarize cells B3 through cell M3? Well, yes, I do want you to summarize it. It's a good guess. Remember, B3 is your starting cell. The colon represents the English word through. So B3 through, and then your destination or your final cell is M3. And sum is the function that is being used. So yes, it guessed correctly, and I hit return or enter. Well, by now you've seen 2 rows that have been summarized. So do we have to enter in that same formula or do that same practice for the rest of my rows here? Well, of course not. You learned that last time. I'm going to highlight using my left mouse button, highlight cells N2 and N3, moving my mouse over until I see the crosshairs. Then I will drag this down, dragging down, holding my left mouse button. I'm releasing it when I get to the last row that says landscape house and let go. Excel automatically copied that formula all the way down for you. So that saves you a few steps, a few clicks. When we're talking about any type of work or websites or anything in Excel or PowerPoint, we want to try to minimize what we'd say the clicks. So how many times you actually have to click on something. So that was a quick way, and we'll show you again when we summarize the columns. So let's say you're looking at your information and you would like to summarize how much money you spent every month. We know how much money you spent last year per household item, but now we'd like to look at how much money did we spend every month. Again, putting my cursor or clicking on cell B as in boy 13, and you already guessed it. You go to the Formulas tab and hit Auto Sum. Just as we did for the rows, it does the same thing for the columns. It guesses. Did you want cells B2 through, remember the colon represents the word through, B11 or B12? Yes, I do. There's nothing in B12, which is fine. You could change this. So let's say, hey, wait a minute, B12's blank. I only want B2 through B11. I simply use my mouse, holding down my left mouse button. I select cells B2 through B11. As you can see, my formula has updated down below. I let go of the left mouse button and hit enter. It has now given me a summary or the sum of 900 plus 200 plus 500, etc., all the way to 250. Now, am I going to do that again manually, moving across all 11 months left of the year? Of course I'm not going to. So do this one more time so Excel can learn the pattern. So again, clicking on cell C13, I go to Auto Sum. I only want cells C2 through C11. So I hold down my left mouse button. I click in cell C2. I keep holding my left mouse button down and I drag this down to C11 and I let go. And then I hit enter. Now I'm going to drag this out for the entire rest of the year. So holding down my left mouse button, selecting cells B13 and C13, move my mouse over until I get to the crosshairs and drag that all the way here. Now, what does that mean when I can't see the actual value? And if I hover over it, it shows me the value, but it's showing me the hashtags or hashtag symbol in that particular column. This is how you fix it. So you could do column by column, and I'll show you one at a time, but I'll also show you how to do this for the entire spreadsheet. So it's column D right now. I can't see that value. That doesn't mean the value doesn't exist. It just means the value is too big or the column is not wide enough to show you that value. As you can see, column C and column D are not the same width. So I highlight column D with my left mouse button and I move until my cursor changes from the downward arrow to this cross. Holding down my left mouse button, I move my mouse to the right, and now I can see that value. So the value wasn't gone. The value just couldn't be displayed because the columns were not wide enough. What do I do with the rest of these columns? Well, I'm going to highlight, holding my left mouse button down, column E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, and M. Now what do? Do I have to do those all individually? No. I have these columns highlighted. I move my cursor over so that it changes in the column section from the down arrow to the cross. And using my left mouse button, I double click and it automatically reformats the column so that it is the appropriate width to be able to see the values that you have entered here at the bottom. Finally, we'd like to see what the grand total is that you've spent for the entire year on your bills. So I'm going to shrink this down just a little bit so you can see everything. My grand total would be here. Now what can I do? Should the total by item and by column match? Of course. Can you get a sneak peek at it? Yes, you can. I can hold down my left mouse button and drag my cursor down through my total by item from mortgage to the landscaping for the house. After I've highlighted those cells, you get a sneak peek down here at the bottom. So hopefully you can see that on my screen. The bottom towards the right corner of the screen, you'll see that Excel automatically displays the average of the selected cells. It gives you a total count, so that means we had 10 items. And it also gives you the sum. So if you had a really large spreadsheet and you wanted to know just quick look at the value of if you added all these cells together, you could quickly highlight a column, you could quickly highlight a row, and you will see that sum automatically displayed at the bottom. I've used it many, many times. Instead of putting in a formula, maybe I wasn't ready yet, maybe I was trying to get to an average, and it was manipulating some numbers. This helps tremendously. So we're at 32,540. Now by month, you can also see we should be able to highlight, holding my left mouse button down, dragging it across to the right, 32,540. So at this point, it doesn't matter if you wanted your grand total to be total by item or total by month. I'm going to put in a new row here, grand total. Type that in. I would like it bold and underlined like the total by month, so I can go to home, the home tab at the top, and I can type in or select bold and underlined. Now my grand total here, I'm going to summarize the total by item. So hopefully you guessed how to do this. I go to the formulas tab. I click on auto sum, and I would like it to summarize or add up cells N2 through N11. Once my selection has been made, I click the enter button, and you can see that value that we showed you before, 32,540, which also was displayed when I highlighted or selected these 10 cells, and we saw that at the bottom. Okay, hopefully you learned something new by using sum and a variety of different features that you can use to copy the formula down. Next time we meet, we'll go over some more sophisticated formulas. But before we're done for today, we're going to do a bar chart. So sometimes we need charts in order to more easily explain our information to an audience. Just like we looked at with the commissions per salesperson, if you had a massive spreadsheet with lines and lines and lines of data, and you had to present that either to maybe a volunteer group or a group that you work with, it's really hard to display this information and have it make sense to an audience. That's why we use graphs. Graphs are just a visual way in which we can depict the information. So going back to the spreadsheet or the tab that we were working on today, we're going to create two different bar charts. Now remember, bar charts are these type of charts. This one is a 3D. You can see there's a little bit of a shadow there. You can see this bar chart here. A bar chart is a great way to be able to look at a variety of information, especially if you have it from either different months or different categories. So let's look at our first way to do a bar chart. So I'm going to put my cursor here on a blank cell. I've clicked in that cell. And let's say I would like to see a bar chart for the amount of money I spent for the year by item. So I want to see for each item, how much did I spend for the year in a nice bar chart type of format. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down my left mouse button. I'm going to click on item and highlight cells A1 through A11, A11 being that landscaping house. Now, in order to select that total by item, I'm going to hold down my control key and I'm going to go over to total by item and I'm going to select cells N1 through N11. So you can see that I have two different columns of data selected just by holding down the control key. Now I'm going to go up to my bar at the top of the screen. I'm going to click on Insert. And here are all the areas right here for charts. There's a lot of different charts available. This one, so I have the latest version of Excel. This one shows me a bar chart and or column. And you can see as I'm hovering over it, it's showing me what the different types of charts are going to look like. So we have our column chart here, and this is Excel considers this a column chart. A bar chart goes the other way. So column chart goes up and down, and the bar chart goes left to right. So we're going to look at that column chart here. I'm going to select the first one, clustered column. Clustered column and 3D column, all it is just how it looks visually. So you can see 3D has a little bit of a shadow on it, and this 2D does not. It's pretty flat. So we're going to go with the 2D, and it shows me my total by item, and it lists the dollar amount on the left side, and then at the bottom, it shows me all of my items. So mortgage, insurance, car payment, etc. It's also highlighting on my screen. On the left side, it's showing me that my items here at the bottom are in purple. The values are in blue over here, and my total by item, which is my header for my chart, is highlighted in pink or red. Easy way to create that chart. That chart is an object, so I can just hold on to it with my left mouse button and move it. So I'm going to bring down the visual here just a little bit so you can see it. Again, oh my goodness, did those disappear? Absolutely not. Highlighting the columns with my left mouse button, double click, and it automatically auto adjusts my column width. Now, let's say we would like to do a column chart or same type of chart, but we want to see it by month. So we're going to, can you guess it? We're going to highlight our months, holding down my left mouse button, clicking in cell B1. I hold that down, drag it over to December 19. I hit the control key and I highlight my values here, my total by month. So starting in cell B13, drag that over to cell M13, let go of the control key. So I have my January through December highlighted and my total values for each month. I'm going to insert, go to my charts area right here, use that little drop down box up here and click on 2D column. So now it's showing me, I'm going to drag this down here a little bit. Now it's showing me per month how much I spent per month. So you can quickly see, holy smokes, in May, something happened. So that's one of the things that is helpful to look at when we're doing a chart. Our chart allows you to look at a trend and identify what changed. So based on my how I have been trained with statistics and some of my background in Lean and Six Sigma, I look at this particular graph and I say, it's pretty normal, a little ebb and flow, a little up and down, but holy smokes, what happened in May? That's why we do these charts. So we can either identify a trend or we can identify what we would call an outlier. So let's go over a couple things on this chart. First of all, this one says chart title. That doesn't help me. That's a placeholder for you to enter in the title of your chart. So we're going to double click on the area with your left mouse button where it says chart title. I'm just going to write actuals by month 2019. Also, I'm kind of a visual person, and this blue doesn't do very much for me. I don't think it's very pretty. So what can I do for that? Well, I can change the colors one at a time for each month. Either graph you can do this on. So we'll just do it on this actuals by month for 2019. I click on the area where it's showing the columns in your chart. I click on it once and it highlights all your columns. If I wanted to change them all to red, you could do that all right now, but I'd like to change each column to a separate color. So I go back and just click on January 19 with my left mouse button. Then with my right mouse button, it says fill. That's exactly what we want. We want to change the fill color of that column. So for January, let's just pick red. Great. Now I left mouse button, click on February, right click with my mouse, it shows fill. I'm going to hit that little drop down there. I'm going to do green for February. Click on the next month with my left mouse button, right click where it says fill. I hit the little drop down arrow right there. Maybe March, I want it to be yellow. You get the hang of it. You can change it to whatever color that you would like. Again, it helps me to have different colors in order to be able to see things on a graph. Now remember, this is just a very simple graph. Sometimes these to be quite large. And as we saw in that other example, and having the colors really helps to break up the data. Now, let's pretend that you're going to present this to maybe a group of people that you work with, or a group of volunteers, or maybe a group of friends. So do I open this Excel file and show them all of this? Well, no, that's not exactly what they want to see. They just want to see this really cool graph that you created. So how do you do that? Well, it is a very easy way to do it. You can click on your graph with your left mouse button, use your right mouse button and click copy. Then I'm going into PowerPoint. I open a new PowerPoint presentation. On my PowerPoint slide, I right click and hit paste. And you can see it's already given me a little preview there. And here is my Excel graph now pasted into PowerPoint. So just to review what we covered in today's session. In today's session, we looked at the information from our last class. We talked about how to insert rows and delete rows. I also showed you the quick tip for expanding your column width. We talked about a very simple function or formula called sum and we went to our formulas tab and used the auto sum feature. And we used that for each row in each column. And then we did a summary. I also showed you how to be able to highlight some cells of data and get the average, sneak peek at the average, the count in the sum and your bottom bar in Excel towards the right. And then we also went over how to create a chart, and we highlighted our data. We also used the control key to highlight multiple columns or multiple rows at the same time. And then we talked about how to change the column colors and how to copy that particular graph and put it into PowerPoint. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today. I greatly appreciate it. I hope that you learned something new. Appreciate any comments that you have, anything that you would like to learn for the next session. And we will see you next week for another Excel Basics. Thank you so much. Have a great day.